Today's world is more connected and moves faster than ever before. But these technological advancements bring more threats to our way of life. With roots tracing back to 1917, the Air Force Research Laboratory continues to deliver technologies with speed, building on its strong foundation of scientific research and innovation to support our warfighters in defending our freedoms. Now, through streamlined processes, digital transformation, and a concerted focus, AFRL accelerates science and technology to meet the Department of the Air Force's priorities and prevail in the future. Supporting the Air Force and Space Force, we are one AFRL, one fight.
Welcome, everyone. Shout out to our amazing team. But welcome, everybody, to the 7th annual AFRL Inspire. Come on, are we excited? Let's get excited. Feeling inspired today. We have the privilege of talking to you from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base here in sunny Dayton, Ohio, to really present what we have here, what we do best, our amazing workforce. I mean, look at all of you. You're incredible. You are the people who are making the right changes, working on game-changing technologies, and changing the game as we know it each and every day. You're amazing. But that's what AFRL Inspire is all about, isn't it? Finding the best and brightest, people leading these teams, people making this possible, who are going to be on this stage today to really say what I'm saying a lot better. But I'm Kenneth McNulty. For those who may not know me, or may know me, you may have seen me at some of our AFRL town halls, if you are within the fence here, as we say in AFRL, or folks outside the fence who may know me from some of our live events, other Inspires in the past, or as a co-host for our Lab Life podcast alongside Michelle Miller. A bit more about myself for those who don't know me, so you can get to know each other. I'm, like everyone else, here in Dayton. I like to take my dog for long walks. I enjoy film. And I'm also a Dayton-renowned dungeon master. Now, what is that? So for those not familiar, a dungeon master, or game master, is somebody who plays the game Dungeons & Dragons. And a lot of those skills that I use as a leader in that game are going to translate well today. Follow me here. Number 1, improv. That'll come up. 2, the memorization of proper nouns. Already happening, right? And 3, telling a good story, or at least an adequate one. And I will say, for my folks in the back in the command center, I'll try to do less improv so you guys don't get too nervous. So I got you guys. But jokes aside, we are here to be inspired. So, as your Dungeon Master of Ceremonies, and on behalf of AFRL, I want to thank everybody here in our in-person audience for being present today. So, one more round of applause for you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And that goes out to our leadership, our workforce, both present and online. So for those of you online who are watching, thank you as well for joining us. We want to make sure that everyone here is recognized. So whether you're another AFRLer, part of the Department of Defense, somebody in academia, in industry, or just a social media fan looking to be inspired, thank you again for being here. And we ask if you want to give any well wishes, comments, or just thoughts, put those in the comments. And our team behind the scenes will make sure we get back to you. If you're commenting off of YouTube, use the hashtag AFRLinspire23. Then we'll find you and we'll connect. Now for people in person, we use a prop here. If you haven't already, we ask that you silence your cell phones. If you haven't, again, I have now silenced mine. So we're good there. And we ask that in between talks, if you guys are looking to get up for any reason, wait for that period so we don't disrupt anybody on stage or off stage. So again, between talks, you're free to go. So today, we are going to hear a lot of very fun things, 9 thought-provoking speakers who are really going to shake things up, really prove that we are not just one AFRL, we're one AFRL in one fight. And that's what makes Inspire so incredible, is that we're getting the chance to not just see people's journeys or the destination, but how they got there with the right teams, how they made that possible. We are seeing what lessons they learned to push past obstacles and past roadblocks to make the impossible possible. And the group today is diverse. I mean, we are talking people who are engineers, scientists, educators. We're talking biomedical experts, even 2 former Air Force fighter pilots. I mean, come on, that's amazing. And these trailblazers really exemplify the mission I mentioned on top. We are one AFRL fighting one fight, and we're doing it with the right team. Now, that said, pushing past all of this and talking about all this goodness, We need the right leader to help show that AFRL is on the forefront of innovation, finding the right people and connecting to the right people in academia and industry, proving that the United States Air Force and the United States Space Force has our support in science and technology, keeping our warfighters safe around the world. Furthering that too, AFRL is supporting the Department of the Air Force's needs with that very same idea. We are on the forefront of science and technology, and with that power, we're keeping our competitive edge now and into the future. But again, we need a great leader to help that. And who better than AFRL Commander Brigadier General Scott Cain.
Looking for that microphone that I heard was going to be up here on stage. But here it comes, improving just a little bit. It was hiding. There we go. I've spent the majority of my career in the Air Force at the intersection of warfighting and technology. And what I mean by that is I spent most of my career in flight test, not in research. And that was at places like the Herald Grounds of Edwards Air Force Base, literally the stuff that what you see in the Wright stuff, from the Joshua trees to the desolate landscapes. But that's where I've spent the majority of my time, is seeing those great successes of technologies moving into the Air Force, and also sometimes some tragic failures in that technology. But it wasn't until I got to AFRL that I was really able to grasp something that I didn't realize about that intersection before. And it's kind of this concept of 20 years to an overnight success. And I've seen that mantra a couple times since I've been here in different forums. But I'm shamelessly stealing that and making that my own now, because there's something very special about that. And it took a particular researcher at AFRL to really make me understand what 20 years to an overnight success is. And that was an individual named Bill Barrett. Most of you probably haven't heard the name Bill Barrett. Some of you I know have, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about his story. And here's how I got to know Bill Barrett. So back in August, I was on my way to the Air War College to give a talk on emerging technology to the 200-some students that are in that course down at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. And in the course of doing that, I reached out to our great AFRL historians and said, hey, I need you to dig into our history and understand what AFRL has done to support technologies, to develop technologies that influenced me and my life and my activity that I've had in the Air Force, which primarily was in test, but also was in the operational side of the Air Force. And so they dug into that, and of course what they came back with was something much greater than that. They came back with a history of the second offset, which was our response to the Soviet Union in the 60s and 70s and their numerical overmatch that they had. And they came back and said, well, there are these things like stealth, and precision attack, and the reconnaissance complex that we built that gave us this advantage. And I used that for that War College talk, but the part that really resonated with me, that really connected with me, was that F-117 piece. And the reason is I flew that aircraft for a few years. In the correction of the record, there are 3 fighter pilots talking today, me being that third. So the F-117, I flew that aircraft for a few years, and there were AFRL technologies that made that possible. Things like fly-by-wire, because it's a crazy-looking and crazy-flying aircraft without fly-by-wire. The laser-guided bomb and the ability to do precision strike, but of course stealth. That was kind of the key to that aircraft. And the stealth piece of it is where Bill became known to me. And so I'll tell you about Bill Barrett just real quickly here. So Bill was a research technician that worked at this place that's not too far from here, actually. A building called The Barn. I didn't realize this at the time either, that I drive past it on my way to the gate every day, Building 821. And at the time, The Barn was called the Aviation aviation radiation lab. And Bill was up there, and they got this challenge, which was, we have this idea that you change the shape of an aircraft, you can change the radar return. You can make it low observable. And so Bill set out to prove this, to be able to figure out how to measure an aircraft's signature in the presence of a radar. Now, you got to think about this. This is back in the 50s. Today, some of the things he did might come across to some of you as toy problems, but to Bill, he could just buy stuff off the shelf that generated the waveforms that he needed. He couldn't just, it wasn't obvious to him or anybody how to put this model in front of the radar, not get a return off from the stick that it's attached to. And he also didn't have high-power computing. He didn't have model-based systems engineering. He was doing this with his head, with a pencil, with his own engineering, with his skills of putting things together. And he did that. He figured out how to measure the radar cross-section of what he decided to use was a model. Building a full-scale aircraft wasn't an option. Just doing this on paper wasn't probably compelling enough, so he built models. He figured out how to do RCS measurement. And in doing so, he wrote the book on not just measurement, but on basically how to do a low observable design. And that means a lot to me, because in my life, in my career, that aircraft that spun out, that became known to the public, probably not as well as its debut in Desert Storm 1991. Now, somebody in the audience is doing the math. You said 50s, and you fast forwarded to the 90s. That's 40 years. Well, this is 50s and 60s work that manifested in the 70s and 80s. So it still works. That it's 20 years to an overnight success. But it really came out on the world stage in 1991 in Desert Storm, where it took to the skies over Iraq, operated with impunity, and really just changed the nature of warfare and brought a lot of pilots back alive. It was about another decade later that I first flew that aircraft. And really, to me, I cut my teeth on that first generation low observable. And I talked about being in flight tests, but my knowledge of that technology that Bill helped develop really pushed forward into my work in developing the next generation of low observable aircraft and things that are in the skies today. Think about the F-35. But even more important and more personal is, interestingly, I'll tell you about being in the F-117 in a time of war and not going to war, because we sent about half of them to Iraq again, and the other half of them went to other places in the world to keep others that were opportunists from trying to take advantage of the fact that we were focused on another war in the Middle East, and so that somebody else in the world didn't take advantage of that. And while I was there doing that mission, my buddies were flying combat missions in Iraq again. And it gets very personal when your friends are in harm's way. And because of the work of those early pioneers like Bill, once again, they executed their mission. They came home alive. And without low observables, many of them might not have, and it became very personal. Now, it took a little twist now from the personal almost to mystical in this next twist in the story. So in my typical day-to-day, racing from one thing to the next, and it was time to start the journey down to Montgomery to go to the War College for the talk. And as I'm racing through the office that last day, the front office staff said, "Hey, there's a guy here named Spike. Some of you know Spike. Spike might even be watching or in the audience here today, and he wants to talk to you about something." And I said, "Sure. Spike, has my ear. Bring him in." And Spike said, "Hey, there's this guy that we all know that his family is about to have a ceremony for Bill or for this guy because he passed away, and he's somebody that's really important to us. He's somebody who a lot of people in AFRL know." And I said, "Who is this?" And he said, "It's a guy named Bill Barrett." And somehow I had found Bill right after I got here and learned this lesson from him about what it takes to develop technology, what it takes to change the world, what it takes to affect warfighting. I found Bill, and then in this, perhaps just a cosmic coincidence, but it seemed a little more than that to me, he found me as well. And so I'm inspired by Bill. I'm inspired by what he did that changed the future, that affected my life so deeply. But this is the kind of stuff that we do and have done since our inception at AFRL, before it was even named AFRL. And it's not just AFRL that does it, it's, as was already mentioned, it's the people who make that happen. And so as I'm inspired by Bill, today you're going to get a chance to hear from other thought leaders in AFRL. And my hope is that these pioneers, who are often quiet pioneers, going to affect and change the future in the next 20 years, are inspiring to you. And really what I hope is that all of the people of AFRL are inspiring to you every day as they are to me. So thank you and enjoy the afternoon.
Well, thank you again, General Cain, for those kind words of encouragement and getting people hyped. We're feeling inspired? Feeling excited? Yeah, thank you. That was all you. So, as we continue this, we mentioned, or you mentioned in the talk here, we have, we're one AFRL, one fight. We've been saying it, but what do we mean by that? Well, today we're going to have 10 speakers that are going to help show how we're doing that. And I should mention, too, that was mentioned at the top, but midway through all of that, we will have our intermission. We'll be about 15 minutes. We'll let you know when that's happening, when to expect it, but I'll be the one to tell you, so don't worry. That said, back to those 10 talks. These people are the ones that, working alongside you, we said at the top, are our workforce changing the world as we know it today, supporting that one AFRL, one fight mission, and making the impossible possible. And when they get up here to explain that story, it'll make more sense as they go through a variable amount of topics to get to that point. That stated, though, we are going to see a lot of very interesting people up here, a lot of incredible talks that are going to be able to capture the mind and the imagination. So before we hit that intermission and after, let's talk about who we're going to be seeing here. So we have a lineup. Let's kind of walk through who we're expecting here. Starting off, we're going to have a mechanical engineer who's going to be telling us that failure isn't the end of a project, but only part of the process to get there. Second, we have a program manager who's showing us that we can find the right talent while championing diversity and inclusion. And we have two materials engineers working hard to show we're forging new partnerships. An expert in autonomous unmanned aerial craft system control. A chemist turned programmer who's changing how we're connecting and working with partners. Big fan. And we have a biomedical engineer who's showing us that, well, we can turn science fiction into reality. We have a physicist showing us that it's relatively easy to learn more about general intelligence. And two former Air Force fighter pilots talking about how we're able to amplify warfighter culture. So you can see, this lineup is looking pretty good. That stated, though, you're looking at a failed chemist right here who found the solution in journalism. Again, my writers are amazing, but jokes aside, fortunately or unfortunately for everyone here, you're going to be hearing a lot more jokes like that. So, above all, though, for those of you who may have watched certain films this year, I have learned one thing above all else: I am Kenough. But as we move ahead here, we are going to be making sure that we kind of dive in, like I said, to some very exciting talks, exciting ideas, and exciting history. So I want you all to buckle up, get ready, and get set, because this flight is about to go off.